I want to make this video available for lots of different people to see. I want to know your thoughts about how Christian mentoring is different from secular mentoring.
Some things are the same. So whether it's secular mentoring or Christian mentoring, it's always a life-on-life developmental process that's aimed at promoting some kind of trait. And so there's always an agenda behind mentoring, whether it's Christian or secular. The difference with Christian mentoring is that the agenda, it's not the mentor's agenda, it's not the mentoree's agenda, it's God's agenda. So that makes a huge difference. So God's agenda is about, there's a discernment process to try and figure out what that is, because when you begin mentoring, neither of you really know all that clearly what God's agenda is. That's thinking about, well, what's God's call on this person's life? How is he working in them? And then Christian mentoring is different too. When you come to encouraging progress, in Christian mentoring, you're confident that God is involved in that transformative process. It may be life on life, but there's another life, there's a third life involved in this partnership, that God is present and is at work, and he's carrying forward his agenda. So it's empowered by a desire to respond faithfully to God's grace and confidence in the power of the Holy Spirit.
Why is it important for you as a mentor to have a real solid relationship with God?
So my relationship with God, it prevents me, helps to stop me from being an unsafe person in the life of the mentoree and being lacking in wisdom, lacking in effectiveness in my mentoring. If it weren't for God keeping me, my motives pure, I could become manipulative, dominating, and sometimes mentoring can become that. I think it's one of the things that people are a little bit cautious about entering into a mentoring relationship, like, what is this person's influence going to be like? So it's really important that the person who's the mentor has good motivations, that it's not about themselves, that it is motivated by God drawing them into this.
How do you see God working during a session?
God's presence brings lots of things to the table. So God's wisdom brings ideas, things that you wouldn't have thought of. His peace comes in a session and sort of lowers anxiety so that a person can think a bit more clearly. I think a sense of his grace and mercy lowers defensiveness, because sometimes people can feel a little bit like they're locked into their position, but the kindness of God just melts that away and creates the possibility for change. And a sense of God's power, that creates confidence and hope, for what could be.
I think God gives us the calmness that we need to come to another person and share our deepest thoughts and the things going on in our lives.
Yeah, when we are in mentoring conversations, often things are starting to get below the surface, we get into real stuff. And a very common response to that is anxiety. Like, whoa, this is now feeling like, what's going to happen? So for God to be present, and I think it's really important to pray, for Christian mentoring, really important to pray and explicitly bring ourselves before God, welcoming his presence and his influence. And that really does bring about a kind of peace that settles things down. We can go there. And we need to go there, and it's okay.